Hey guys, tonight we slip into the misty moors of ancient Britain, where colossal stones stand like silent giants under a star-strewn sky. You're barefoot, the damp grass tickling your toes, as a cool breeze carries whispers of a long-lost world. These are the Celts' stone circles, mysterious, massive, and maddeningly cryptic. Why did they build them? Spoiler, you probably won't survive the urge to overthink their cosmic riddles. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop a comment with your location and local time. I'm curious where you're drifting off tonight. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You're standing in a field somewhere in what's now Wiltshire or Orkney, around 3000 BCE. The air feels heavy, not just with mist, but with purpose. These aren't random rocks. Stone circles, like Stonehenge or the Ring of Brodgar, are deliberate. They're builders, the early Celts and their predecessors, pouring sweat and soul into them. Historians agree these monuments took generations to construct, a fact that screams commitment. Imagine you're dragging a 40-ton boulder with nothing but ropes and grit. That's the mainstream truth. These folks were all in. But here's a quirky twist. Some fringe folks swear these circles were alien landing pads. Picture little green Druids waving at UFOs. It's a stretch, but it makes you chuckle as you trace the stone's edges. Historians still argue whether these circles were primarily temples, observatories, or something else entirely. You feel the weight of that debate as you stand here, the stones looming like they're daring you to guess. Let's set the scene. You're not just in a field, you're in a world where the Celts, or at least their early kin, saw the land as alive. Every hill, river, and star had a spirit. Building a circle wasn't just construction, it was a conversation with the cosmos. You notice the stones aren't uniform. Some are jagged, others polished, like they were chosen for personality. You run your hand over one, its surface cold and rough, and wonder what it witnessed. Were there chants, sacrifices, or just a bunch of folks arguing over where to put the next rock? The Celts didn't have GPS or telescopes, but they had eyes and patience. You look up, and the stars seem to pulse, as if they're in on the secret. These circles often align with solstices or lunar cycles, suggesting the builders track the heavens with eerie precision. You imagine a Celtic elder, cloaked in furs, squinting at the horizon, plotting the sun's path. It's humbling and a bit spooky to think they knew so much without a single app. But don't get too cozy with the romance of it. Building these was brutal. You're hauling stones, your back aching, while some know-it-all Druid barks orders. And for what? Maybe to honor the gods, maybe to mark time, or maybe just to flex on the neighboring tribe. You smirk at the thought. Ancient flexing is still flexing. Whatever the reason, these circles were sacred, their stones anchoring the Celts to something bigger than themselves. As you wander the circle, you notice smaller stones, maybe offerings or grave markers. The quirky alien theory pops back into your head, and you laugh softly. Imagine explaining that to a Celtic chieftain. More likely, these stones were a bridge between earth and sky, life and death. You feel a chill, not just from the wind, but from the realization that you're standing where ancient feet once stood, asking the same questions you are. You pause, the silence deafening. The stones don't talk, but they don't need to. They're here, enduring, while empires and TikTok trends fade. You're hooked now, aren't you? Ready to dig deeper into why the Celts built these cosmic puzzles. The night's just getting started. You're still standing in that misty field, the stone circle looming around you like a council of ancient judges. The air hums with something electric, not lightning, but intent. You're about to uncover what drove the Celts to build these enigmatic rings. And it's not just about stacking rocks for fun. Their spiritual fire fueled these monuments, and you're close to feeling its warmth. The Celts, or their Bronze Age ancestors, were no casual rock enthusiasts. Mainstream history tells us they were a deeply spiritual people, their lives woven with rituals that tied them to the land and sky. By 2500 BCE, communities across Britain and Ireland were erecting stone circles, often in places already sacred. Think hills or river bends. You imagine a Celtic priest, face painted with woad, chanting as the first stone is set. These weren't just structures, they were acts of devotion, like building a cathedral with nothing but muscle and faith. Now, for a quirky tidbit, some locals in 19th century Scotland swore these circles were built by giants who tossed boulders like pebbles. You grin, picturing a giant with a terrible aim, lobbing stones into sloppy circles. It's folklore, sure, but it hints at how these monuments awed even later generations. Historians still argue whether the circles were mainly for worship or if they doubled as social hubs, like ancient community centers with a mystical vibe. You feel that tension as you stand here, the stones silent on their true purpose. Let's dive deeper. You notice the circle's center, where the ground feels different, packed, almost polished by countless feet. The Celts believed the world was alive, every stone and star pulsing with spirit. Building a circle was like pinning a sacred moment in place, a way to talk to gods or ancestors. You crouch, touching the earth, and imagine offerings left here, polished axes, beads, maybe even a deer's antler. It's not hard to picture a crowd gathered, their voices rising in a language you'll never know, binding themselves to something eternal. But spirituality wasn't just airy-fairy vibes. You see faint carvings on a stone, spirals, cups, rings. These aren't doodles, they're cosmic code, maybe mapping the stars or marking sacred times. You smirk, thinking how your phone's calendar app would have blown their minds. Yet, their system worked. The Celts watched the heavens obsessively, and these circles were their telescopes, their altars, their everything. You feel a pang of respect. They didn't need Wi-Fi to feel connected. Still, it wasn't all serene chanting. You picture the chaos of organizing this. Rival clans bickering over which god gets the best stone, or some poor guy stuck hauling rocks while the Druids sip mead. You chuckle softly. Bureaucracy is eternal, isn't it? But that chaos birthed order. The stones stand in deliberate arcs, their placement screaming purpose. You walk the circle's edge, noticing how it frames the landscape. Hills, rivers, stars. It's like the Celts built a lens to focus the universe. That giant tossing boulder story pops back into your head, and you laugh under your breath. More likely, these circles were a flex of faith, a way to say, we're here and we matter. You feel it now, standing where they stood, the same stars overhead. The Celts poured their beliefs into these stones, believing they could anchor the divine to the dirt. You wonder if they felt closer to their gods, or if, like you, they just stood here, awestruck, asking questions with no answers. As you linger, the wind picks up, tugging at your imaginary cloak. The stones seem to lean in, like they're eavesdropping on your thoughts. You're starting to get why the Celts went to all this trouble. Their world was wild, unpredictable, but these circles were their way of carving out meaning. You're not done yet. There's more to unravel about how these stones danced with the stars. You're still in the heart of the stone circle, the night sky sprawling above like a cosmic quilt. The stars seem to wink, as if they know something you don't. You're about to marvel at how these ancient stones align with the heavens, their precision so sharp, it feels like the Celts were chatting with the galaxy itself. This isn't just a pile of rocks, it's an astronomical masterpiece. Mainstream history confirms that many stone circles, like Stonehenge or Callanish, were built with celestial events in mind. By 3000 BCE, their builders had mapped solstices, equinoxes, and even lunar cycles, aligning stones to catch the sun's first rays or the moon's ghostly glow. You stand at the circle's edge, imagining the summer solstice dawn, the sun slicing through a gap in the stones like a laser. It's not just pretty, it's proof the Celts, or their kin, were obsessive sky watchers, tracking time with nothing but eyes and patience. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some 20th century enthusiasts claim these alignments were so perfect they could have been used to predict eclipses. You smirk, picturing a druid with a stone abacus, forecasting a solar blackout like some ancient weatherman. It's a bit out there, but it makes you wonder how much they really knew. Historians still argue whether these circles were primarily observatories or if their star tracking was just one piece of a spiritual puzzle. You feel that debate humming as you gaze upward, the stars refusing to spill their secrets. Let's get closer. You step toward a massive stone, its tip pointing at a constellation you can't quite name. The Celts didn't have telescopes, but they had time, years, maybe generations, to watch the skies slow dance. You imagine a young apprentice, shivering in the pre-dawn chill, tasked with noting where the sun rose each day. It's humbling, isn't it? Your phone star app would have been a game changer, but they managed without it. The stones around you are like frozen arrows, each one aimed at a celestial target. Solstice, sunrises, lunar standstills, maybe even planets. You notice how the circle's layout isn't random. It's a giant sundial, a cosmic clock. You walk to the center, your footsteps muffled by centuries of Earth, and picture the equinox, when day and night balance perfectly. The stones frame the horizon, catching the sun's path with eerie accuracy. You can't help but feel small, standing where ancient eyes once traced the same arcs. It's like the Celts built a bridge to the stars, and you're walking it. But don't romanticize it too much. You chuckle, thinking of the poor souls who had to nudge these multi-ton boulders into place, probably cursing under their breath when a stone didn't line up with Orion's belt. Precision came at a cost. Blisters, broken ropes, maybe a few crushed toes. Yet, the result is undeniable. You look at a stone that's slightly tilted, as if nodding to the North Star. It's not perfect, but it's close enough to make you question how they pulled it off. That eclipse predictor idea pops back into your mind, and you laugh softly. Imagine the panic if they got it wrong. More likely, these alignments were about marking time, celebrating seasons, or pleasing gods who lived in the sky. You feel a connection to those long-gone builders, their gaze fixed on the same constellations you see now. The stones are silent, but they scream intelligence, patience, and a hunger to understand the universe. As you linger, the night feels sharper, the stars brighter. You're starting to grasp how these circles weren't just about worship, but about mastering time itself. The Celts turned rocks into a calendar, a telescope, a prayer. You're hooked, aren't you? Ready to step into the rituals that brought these stones to life. You're still within The stone circle, the night air thick with the scent of damp earth and mystery. The stones stand like sentinels, their shadows stretching under the moonlight. You're about to witness the sacred ceremonies that brought these rings to life, the rituals that made them pulse with meaning. This isn't just a monument. It's a stage for the Celts' deepest beliefs in your front row. Mainstream history tells us that stone circles were likely ceremonial hubs used for religious rites, seasonal festivals, or even burials. By 2500 BCE, communities gathered in places like Avebury or the Ring of Brodgar, their rituals tying them to gods, ancestors, and the land. You stand in the circle's heart, imagining a solstice night, flames flickering, voices chanting in a tongue that's now dust. The Celts didn't just visit these places, they poured their souls into them, making offerings to ensure the sun would rise again. For a quirky twist, some old tales claim Druids danced naked under the full moon to summon spirits. You smirk, picturing a chilly night and some very reluctant dancers, goosebumps and all. It's probably exaggerated, but it shows how these circles sparked wild stories. Historians still argue whether ceremonies were mainly for worship or if they also settled social disputes, like ancient courtrooms with better views. You feel that debate as you stand here, the stones holding their secrets tight. Let's step into the scene. You're surrounded by a crowd, their faces painted with ochre, eyes glinting in the firelight. A druid, or maybe just the village know-it-all, raises a staff, calling to the sky. You hear drums, low and steady, like the earth's heartbeat. The Celts believed rituals in these circles could sway the gods, maybe coaxing rain or honoring the dead. You notice a small pit nearby, filled with charred bones or polished stones, offerings perhaps to keep the cosmos spinning. You wander closer to a massive stone, its surface carved with spirals that seem to writhe in the flickering light. These weren't just pretty designs, they were prayers etched in rock, maybe marking a sacred moment or a plea for fertility. You chuckle, thinking how your to-do list would look carved in stone, way less poetic. The rituals here were communal, binding people together. You imagine families trekking miles, kids whining, all to stand in this circle and feel part of something bigger. But it wasn't all solemn. You picture a feast after the rites, roasted boar, mead flowing, maybe a few tipsy arguments over who saw the gods first. You laugh softly, realizing parties haven't changed much. The stones framed these moments, their permanence grounding the fleeting chaos of life. You touch one, its cold surface anchoring you, too, as you picture the crowd dispersing, leaving only embers and echoes. That naked druid story pops back into your head, and you grin. Imagine explaining that to the neighbors. More likely, rituals were layered. Worship, politics, even matchmaking, all under the stars. You feel the energy of those nights, the way the circle held everyone, from chieftains to farmers, in its embrace. The Celts didn't just build these rings, they lived them, their ceremonies weaving the human and divine into one. As you linger, the wind carries a faint hum, like the ghost of those ancient drums. You're starting to see these stones as more than architecture. They were the Celts' heartbeat, their way of shouting to the universe. You're ready to dig deeper, to unravel how they viewed the cosmos itself, and how these circles were their map to the stars. You're still standing in the stone circle, the stars above burning brighter, as if they're leaning in to listen. The stones around you feel alive, their silent bulk humming with the Celts' cosmic beliefs. You're about to explore how these ancient people saw the universe, not just as a pretty sky, but as a living tapestry that these circles were built to honor. This is where the Celts' world gets wonderfully weird. Mainstream history tells us the Celts viewed the cosmos as interconnected, every star, river, and stone linked by divine threads. By 2000 BCE, their beliefs shaped stone circles as sacred spaces, mirroring the heavens on earth. You stand in the circle's center, imagining a Celtic elder pointing to the Milky Way, explaining how it's a river of souls flowing to the afterlife. These circles weren't just pretty, they were maps of the universe, built to keep the world in balance. Here's a quirky tidbit. Some folklore suggests the Celts thought certain stones could sing to the stars, harmonizing with celestial rhythms. You smirk, picturing a boulder belting out a cosmic ballad, probably off-key. It's a stretch, but it captures how these monuments were seen as alive, even magical. Historians still argue whether the circles were meant to channel cosmic energy or simply mark sacred calendars. You feel that debate as you gaze upward, the night sky vast and unyielding. Let's dive in. You notice how the stones frame the horizon, like a giant lens focusing the universe. The Celts believed the heavens dictated life, planting, harvesting, even battles. You imagine a druid, cloaked in starlight, reading the sky like a scroll, deciding when to sow barley or raid a rival tribe. It's not so different from checking your weather app, you think, chuckling softly, except their app was the actual sky. The circle's layout feels deliberate, each stone a nod to a star or season. You step toward one, its surface etched with faint spirals, maybe mimicking the swirl of galaxies the Celts couldn't see, but somehow sensed. They saw the cosmos as cyclical, birth, death, rebirth, all spinning like the stars. You picture a ceremony here, voices rising to honor the equinox, when the world felt reborn. The stones anchored that belief, tying the fleeting earth to the eternal sky. But don't think it was all lofty philosophy. You grin, imagining a Celtic kid rolling their eyes as their parents droned on about cosmic harmony. Life was tough. Floods, famines, the occasional angry boar. So these circles were practical too. They were a way to beg the gods for stability, to say, hey, universe, cut us some slack. You touch a stone, its cold weight grounding you, and feel the Celts' hope etched into it. That singing stone story pops back into your mind, and you laugh under your breath. Imagine the look on a Druid's face if a rock actually crooned. More likely, the Celts felt the stones vibrated with the universe's pulse, their placement echoing celestial patterns. You look up, the constellations sharp against the dark, and realize the Celts didn't just worship the sky, they lived in it. These circles were their way of joining the cosmic dance, of making their small lives part of something infinite. As you linger, the night feels deeper, the stones heavier with meaning. You're starting to see how the Celts' beliefs weren't just stories, but a blueprint for survival, etched in rock and starlight. You're ready to shift gears, to grapple with the sweaty, back-breaking reality of how they built these cosmic wonders in the first place. You're still inside the stone circle, the night air sharp with the scent of moss and mystery. The stones tower around you, their sheer size making your neck ache as you look up. You're about to grapple with the mind-boggling question of how the Celts, or their Bronze Age kin, managed to build these cosmic monuments. Spoiler, it wasn't magic, but it might as well have been. This is where sweat, ingenuity, and sheer stubbornness collide. Mainstream history confirms that constructing stone circles, like Stonehenge or the stones of Stennis, required immense effort, with some stones hauled over miles around 2500 BCE. Communities used basic tools, ropes, levers, and wooden sledges to move multi-ton boulders, a feat that screams determination. You stand by a massive stone, imagining the grunts and groans of dozens of people, their hands blistered, dragging it across the landscape. It's a testament to human will. No cranes required. For a quirky tidbit, some 18th century antiquarians thought the Celts used secret Druidic levitation to float the stones into place. You chuckle, picturing a Druid waving a wand like some ancient Hogwarts dropout, only for the stone to plop back down. It's nonsense, but it shows how these monuments baffled even later minds. Historians still argue whether the builders relied on brute force or clever engineering tricks, like counterweights or earthen ramps. You feel that debate as you trace the stone's rough edge, its weight defying easy answers. Let's get to work. You're part of the crew now, your shoulders aching as you tug a rope tied to a sledge. The stone, a hulking 20-ton beast, barely budges. You picture the scene. Men, women, maybe even kids, heaving together, their chants sinking with each pull. The Celts didn't have wheels, at least not for this, but they had smarts. You notice a faint rut in the ground, maybe a track where stones were slid over logs, rolling inch by painful inch. It's like the world's slowest roller coaster, and you're not exactly thrilled to be on it. You step back, wiping imaginary sweat from your brow, and marvel at the logistics. Some stones came from quarries 200 miles away, like the blue stones at Stonehenge. You imagine the journey, rivers, hills, bogs, each mile a battle against gravity and bad luck. You smirk, thinking how your GPS would have had a meltdown. Once on site, the real fun began. Digging pits, tilting stones upright, and hoisting lintels. You picture a shaky scaffold, someone yelling, "Don't drop it," as a stone teeters. It's a miracle nobody got squashed. Or maybe they did, and the stones aren't telling. But it wasn't just muscle. You notice how one stone's base is shaped, chiseled to fit its pit like a puzzle piece. The Celts were engineers, their tools simple, but their brains sharp. You imagine a planner, maybe the village math nerd, sketching in the dirt, calculating angles to align with the solstice sun. You laugh softly. Ancient project management, complete with missed deadlines and grumpy workers. Yet, they pulled it off, stone by stone, generation by generation. That levitation myth pops back into your head, and you grin. Imagine pitching that to the crew after a 12-hour shift. More likely, the Celts' real magic was teamwork, fueled by belief in the circle's cosmic purpose. You feel their exhaustion, their pride, as you stand here, the stones unmoved by time. They built this with no machines, just heart and grit, making the impossible real. As you linger, the night feels heavier, the stones more imposing. You're starting to grasp the scale of their achievement, how these circles were as much about human stubbornness as divine inspiration. You're ready to pivot, to dive in to the swirling debates about what these monuments were really for. You're still standing in the stone circle, the cool night air brushing your skin as the stones loom like ancient philosophers, each one guarding a secret. You felt their cosmic pull, their spiritual weight, but now you're about to wade into the murky waters of what these circles were really for. The Celts didn't leave a user manual, so you're left with scholars' best guesses. And boy, do they disagree. This is where the mystery thickens, and you're ready to ponder. Mainstream history suggests stone circles, like those at Stonehenge or Castlerig, served multiple roles: temples, calendars, or gathering spots. Around 2500 BCE. Evidence of rituals, burials, and astronomical alignments supports this, showing the Celts used them to connect with gods, time, and in each other. You stand in the circle's center, imagining a solstice crowd, their voices echoing as they honor the sun's return. It's a solid fact. These were multifunctional hubs, not just fancy rock gardens. But here's a quirky twist. Some fringe theorists claim the circles were ancient healing centers, their stones emitting mystical energies to cure ailments. You smirk, picturing a Celtic influencer hawking vibrational stone therapy to a skeptical crowd. It's a bit woo-woo, but it reflects how these monuments still spark wild ideas. Historians still argue whether the circles were primarily religious, scientific, or social, or all three at once. You feel that debate swirling as you lean against a stone, its cold surface grounding your thoughts. Let's dive into the fray. You walk the circle's perimeter, noticing how it frames the landscape. Hills, stars, maybe a sacred river. Scholars love the temple theory. These were sacred spaces, like open-air cathedrals, where Druids or elders led rites to appease sky gods. You picture a ceremony, incense, smoke curling upward, the crowd hushed as a priest invokes the cosmos. But then you pause. Could this have been a giant clock, too? The stone's alignments with solstices and equinoxes scream calendar, a way to track seasons for planting or feasting. You chuckle, thinking how your phone's reminders pale in comparison. Or maybe it was a social hub. You imagine tribes converging here, not just to pray, but to trade, marry, or settle feuds. Picture a Celtic version of a town hall, with more mead and fewer PowerPoint slides. The evidence, feast remnants, buried offerings, hints at big gatherings. You grin, wondering if some poor soul got stuck organizing the catering. Yet, the healing center idea nags at you. No hard proof, but folklore about magic stones curing headaches makes you wonder if the Celts felt something here, a vibe, a hope that science can't measure. The debate feels alive as you stand here. Were these circles about reaching the divine, mastering time, or just showing off to rival clans? You touch a stone, its carvings faint under your fingers, and realize they might have been all these things, shape-shifting with the Celts' needs. Historians bicker because the stones don't pick a side. They just stand, letting each generation project its dreams onto them. You laugh softly, imagining a druid rolling their eyes at our overthinking. That healing stone theory pops back into your mind, and you snicker. Imagine the Yelp reviews for a bad energy session. More likely, the circle's true power was their flexibility, serving as altars, observatories, and meeting halls all at once. You feel the Celts' ingenuity, their ability to build something so layered it still stumps us. The night feels deeper now, the stones heavier with possibility, as you realize their purpose might never be pinned down. As you linger, the wind whispers through the circle, carrying echoes of those ancient debates. You're starting to see these stones as mirrors, reflecting whatever the Celts and we need them to be. You're ready to shift focus, to explore how these circles shape the Celts' identity and left a mark that lingers. You're still within the stone circle, the night sky a vast canvas of twinkling stars, each stone around you standing like a proud elder of a long-gone tribe. Their presence feels heavier now, not just as rocks, but as anchors of a culture that shaped the Celts' very soul. You're about to trace how these stone circles wove themselves into Celtic identity, their legacy rippling through time like a song you can't forget. This is where the stones become more than monuments. They become the Celts' heartbeat. Mainstream history tells us that stone circles, like those at Avebury or the Ring of Brodgar, were central to Celtic culture by 2000 BCE, serving as sacred and social focal points that defined community and belief. These sites weren't just visited, they were the glue holding tribes together, their construction and use reinforcing shared values. You stand among the stones, imagining generations gathering here, their stories and rituals binding them as one people. It's a fact, these circles were cultural cornerstones, as vital as any modern flag or anthem. For a quirky tidbit, some later Celtic myths claim the stones were petrified warriors, frozen by gods for some epic betrayal. You grin, picturing a stone with a grumpy face, stuck mid-battle for eternity. It's a tall tale, but it shows how these circles inspired awe and storytelling. Historians still argue whether the circles primarily shaped religious identity, or if their social role, uniting clans, was just as crucial. You feel that debate as you rest against a stone, its cool surface whispering of countless lives it touched. Let's step into the legacy. You're in the circle's heart, the ground worn smooth by ancient feet. These stones weren't just for Druids or elites. They belonged to everyone. You picture farmers, weavers, warriors, all converging here for solstice rites or harvest feasts, their differences melting in the firelight. The circles gave the Celts a shared language, not of words, but of place and purpose. You imagine a young girl, her first time at the circle, wide-eyed as elders recount tales of gods and stars. It's how identity was forged, through stories told in these rings. You notice a smaller stone, maybe a marker for a chieftain's grave. The Celts buried their dead near circles, tying their ancestors to the land and sky. It's like they were saying, We're rooted here, forever. You chuckle, thinking how your family's group chat is less poetic, but just as binding. The circles also marked territory, a flex to rival tribes. This is ours, and it's holy. You picture a Celtic leader, chest puffed, showing off their circle like it's the ultimate status symbol. But it wasn't all lofty unity. You smirk, imagining the drama, clans arguing over who got to lead the next ritual or whose offering was snubbed by the gods. Yet, those squabbles only deepened the circle's role, making them stages for the messy, vibrant thing called culture. The stone saw it all: births, deaths, alliances, betrayals, and stood firm, giving the Celts a constant to rally around. You feel their pride, their stubborn claim to this land, as you trace a stone's weathered edge. That petrified warrior myth pops back into your head, and you laugh softly. Imagine trying to convince a kid those stones were once sword-swinging heroes. More likely, the circle's real magic was their staying power, shaping how the Celts saw themselves as a people of the land, the stars, and the divine. You sense their legacy in the air, a quiet strength that outlasted their voices. The stones didn't just hold rituals, they held the Celts together, giving them a name, a story, a home. As you linger, the night feels softer, the stones warmer with the weight of memory. You're starting to see how these circles weren't just built by the Celts, but built them. Their identity carved in rock and ritual. You're ready to confront the mysteries that still cling to these stones, the questions that keep us guessing. You're still standing in the stone circle, the night wrapping around you like a velvet cloak, the stones silent yet brimming with secrets. The stars overhead seem to pulse, as if teasing you with answers just out of reach. You're about to confront the mysteries that still cling to these ancient monuments, the questions that keep scholars up at night and make these circles endlessly fascinating. This is where the Celts' enigma deepens, and you're diving into the unknown. Mainstream history acknowledges that stone circles, like those at Stonehenge or Callanish, remain partly unexplained, with their full purpose and construction methods still debated since their creation around 2500 BCE. Archaeological finds, tools, bones, alignments offer clues, but gaps persist, leaving room for wonder. You stand among the stones, feeling their weight, not just in tons, but in unanswered riddles. It's a fact, despite centuries of study, these circles guard their deepest truths like stubborn gatekeepers. For a quirky tidbit, some modern mystics claim the circles are portals to other dimensions, opened during rare celestial events. You smirk, picturing a druid accidentally stepping into a cosmic wormhole, only to pop out in a parallel Bronze Age. It's pure fantasy, but it captures the circle's magnetic pull on our imaginations. Historians still argue whether the circle's mysteries stem from lost rituals or if we're just missing practical details, like how they hauled those stones. You feel that tension as you circle a monolith, its shadow daring you to guess. Let's lean into the unknown. You notice a stone slightly askew, as if it's whispering, "Figure me out." Why did the Celts build so many circles, hundreds across Britain and Ireland, yet leave no written records? You imagine their voices, lost to time, explaining it all over a campfire. Were these sites chosen for mystical earth energies, as some claim, or just because the view was nice? You chuckle, thinking how your real estate agent would hype up prime solstice aligned property. Then there's the construction puzzle. You recall those back-breaking efforts, ropes, sledges, sheer grit. But how did they align stones so precisely with stars? You picture a Celtic stargazer, squinting at the horizon, maybe using a stick and string as a proto-theodolite. It's not magic, but it's close. And what about the smaller circles, barely studied, tucked in remote valleys? You wonder if they held lesser rites or were practice runs for the big leagues, like Stonehenge. The gaps in evidence feel like missing puzzle pieces scattered by time. You pause by a stone with faint carvings, spirals, cups, lines. Are they maps, prayers, or just ancient graffiti? You grin, imagining a bored teenager carving "Boudica was here" while the Druids weren't looking. The portal idea pops back into your head, and you laugh softly. Imagine the chaos if a stone really zapped you to another realm. More likely, the mysteries lie in mundane details, lost techniques, forgotten gods, or rituals too sacred to share. You feel the Celts' world slipping through your fingers, their lives vivid, yet just out of reach. The biggest mystery hits you as you stand here. Why do these circles still matter? They draw thousands, tourists, pagans, curious folks like you, chasing their magic. Is it their beauty, their defiance of time, or something deeper, like a whisper of the Celts' cosmic hunger? You touch a stone, its surface cold, and realize the mystery isn't just what they were, but why they still pull at us, urging us to ask, to dream, to wonder. As you linger, the night feels vast, the stones heavier with questions than answers. You're starting to love their secrecy, how they keep us guessing, just as they did the Celts. You're ready for one last moment with these stones, to let their whispers carry you into the night. You're still in the stone circle, the night now deep and soft, as if the world is holding its breath. The stones around you stand like old friends, their silhouettes softened by starlight. You've journeyed through their cosmic purpose, their builders' sweat, their enduring mysteries. Now, you're about to linger one last time, letting the stones whisper their final secrets. Secrets that feel less like answers and more like a gentle nudge toward wonder. This is where the Celts' legacy settles into your bones. Mainstream history confirms that stone circles, like Stonehenge or the Ring of Brodgar, have outlasted their creators, standing as testaments to Celtic ingenuity and belief since 2500 BCE. They're UNESCO sites now, drawing millions who sense their timeless pull. You stand in the circle's heart, feeling the weight of centuries, imagining the countless eyes that have gazed at these same stones. It's a fact. Their endurance is their power, speaking to us across millennia. For a quirky tidbit, some locals still swear the stones hum at dawn, a faint vibration only the lucky hear. You smile, picturing yourself cupping an ear to a boulder, hoping for a cosmic radio station, only to get static. It's probably just wind or wishful thinking, but it shows how these circles still spark magic. Historians still argue whether their lasting allure comes from their mystery or their sheer physical presence. You feel that debate as you rest a hand on a stone, its surface cool and eternal. Let's stay a moment longer. You wander the circle, your steps slow, the grass soft underfoot. The Celts are gone, their voices faded, but these stones are their echo. You picture them here, farmers, priests, dreamers, building not just for their time, but for forever. They couldn't know you'd stand here, yet it feels like they built this for you, a gift across ages. You chuckle, thinking how your to-do list barely survives a week, while their rocks have outlived empires. You notice the sky, the stars brighter now, as if bowing to the stones. The Celts saw the cosmos in these circles, and you feel it too, a sense of being small yet connected, part of a universe that spins on, indifferent but beautiful. You imagine a solstice dawn, the first light kissing a stone, just as it did when the Celts cheered. It's humbling, isn't it? Your Wi-Fi might fail, but these stones never will. They're a promise that some things, belief, effort, wonder, can last. That humming stone story pops back into your mind, and you laugh softly. Imagine if they really sang a low hymn to the stars. More likely, their music is their silence, their ability to make you pause, to think, to feel the Celts' hunger for meaning. You stand still, the night wrapping you like a blanket, and realize these circles aren't just relics, they're invitations, daring you to ask the big questions, to find your own place in the cosmic dance. As you linger, the stones seem to lean closer, their whispers fading into the wind. You're not ready to leave, but the night is gentle, urging you to rest. The Celts built these circles to hold the stars, and now they hold you. Their story a soft lullaby as you drift toward sleep. The night grows quieter now, the stone circle fading into a soft blur of shadow and starlight. You feel the grass beneath you, cool and damp, as the stone's ancient presence settles like a warm blanket over your thoughts. There's no need to solve their mysteries tonight. The Celts' voices, their dreams, their cosmic gaze, they're all here, woven into the silence, cradling you as you ease into rest. Let the stars keep watch, their light steady, their stories endless. The stones will stand tomorrow, and the next day, and the next, holding their secrets for anyone who pauses to listen. For now, your breath slows, the world softens, and the universe feels close, like a friend whispering good night. Sleep well, carried by the Celts' timeless wonder. Their circles a gentle reminder that you too are part of something vast and beautiful.